First off, I just want to say what a great NFL season it's been. Full of ups and downs for all teams involved, and man, it's just really been a great year, full of upsets, big surprises, changing of the guards around the league, and divisions that really most people didn't expect to happen. So, what we're going to do is break down the current matchups that we know are happening, and then get into matchups that I think are going to happen given my predictions for the current matchups. Uh, well, let's get going. So we're gonna start off in the AFC with Baltimore versus the Chargers. So like obviously here the popular pick is the Chargers, even though the game is in Baltimore. To those people, I totally understand where you're coming from. The Chargers have Philip Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Antonio Gates, and Hunter Henry potentially coming back for the playoffs. And man, that offense is loaded. And then you look at their defense, even with guys like Casey Hayward, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and the rest of their defense. They are really scary across the board, and in my opinion, the most talented team in the NFL by a wide margin. So the Ravens are interesting because of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has started in 6 games, I believe, and in those 6 games, Baltimore's 5-1, with their only loss being in Kansas City by 3 points, if I remember correctly. That right there proves that they can beat anybody in the NFL if they can get Lamar Jackson going. But that's the key: is if Lamar Jackson can get going. The running game has been the best in the NFL since Lamar took over, but it really has been all him. Yes, Gus Edwards, he has been playing really well. But that's only because, in my opinion at least, of the threat that Lamar Jackson brings to the table in the backfield, having to, game plan around him more so than Gus Edwards, which kind of lets him, run free a little bit. And basically that leads to having essentially what equates to two running backs in the backfield, where Lamar Jackson could torch you all over the field and Gus Edwards can just slam it down your throat. And then you look at the other side of the ball for the Ravens too. Their defense has been incredible. They have the ability to go out and shut down any team on any day from any position on the field. And trust me when I say this, similar to I believe what Eric Weddle said, not a single team wants to see them in this playoff run because they can be dangerous with that defense. And come January, they do say, defense wins titles and blah blah blah, all that. Strong running game, good defense, you're gonna win. And I truly believe that. And that being said, I am going with the upset, and the Baltimore Ravens will beat the Chargers in the wild card round and move on to play the Patriots. So the second matchup in the AFC is between the Colts and the Texans in NRG Stadium in Houston, where the Colts have already won once this season by 3 points. And I really expect this to be the closest of all the three wild card games, because of like all the matchups. Like these teams are very, very evenly, put up against each other. You got Deshaun Watson, Andrew Luck, Marlon Mack, Lamar Miller, T.Y. Hilton, DeAndre Hopkins, which, I mean, that's really not like terribly close, but T.Y. can burn you and DeAndre can make some crazy plays. Got guys like Jabal Sheard and Jadeveon Clowney. Majority of these are really, really balanced, and when you consider the fact that both teams went to the other's building and won this season, that basically just proves, they are very evenly matched, and both teams can beat the other on any given day. I think it's going to be won in the trenches, by whoever's team can keep their QB off the ground the best. And that Colts O line this season has been incredible, giving up, I believe, only 18 sacks. I might be wrong with that, but 18 sacks, I believe, all season. And they've already had to go up against J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney once this season. So that I feel like, or twice actually, twice. And I feel like because of that, they kind of already know what they're doing, and their O line coach can kind of, coach around that. And like, we've already played these guys, we can stop them. We've proven we can stop them twice, and because of that, I'm taking the Colts to move on to play the Chiefs. Moving on to the NFC, you have Seattle traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. So the Seahawks ended the season winning 6 of 7, with their only loss being an overtime loss in Santa Clara against the Niners, which really, watching that game, it seemed pretty fluky. The field really isn't great in San Francisco, and I mean the Niners are pretty good at home. You can't really overlook them, but I mean, it's in the past. Seattle's here, San Francisco's not. That being said, the Seattle offense, man, they're really good. Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, Mike Davis, Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin, and among others. Obviously, they're all really good. And you really don't discredit their offensive line this season, who they definitely have stepped up. Although, it's not really much of a step up from last season because of how bad they were, but they are better. Definitely. They're obviously not one of the better offensive lines in the league, but they are definitely better than what they were last year, that's for sure. And it really has made the running game turn into something pretty good. Not great, but it can definitely get the job done, especially with a guy like Russell Wilson in the backfield, taking snaps. And on the defensive side of the ball, even without Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, they've been really good. You got your guys like Bobby Wagner balling out like he usually does. Deion Jordan has been pretty decent as a backup, which is a pleasant surprise for Seattle, I'd say. And obviously Shaquille and Shaquem Griffin, they've been pretty solid as, most expected. And Bradley McDougald also very, very quietly has been pretty good. Same with Tedrick Thompson. Obviously not ideal strong safety, but he's still pretty good. And overall, this defense matches up really well with the Dallas offense. And honestly, I don't think Dak will really know what to do by the end of the game just because of Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan. They don't exactly know what they're doing coaching an offense. And by the end of the game, I feel like they might end up being like one dimensional because Dak might like crumble under the pressure of the playoffs, similar to what happened in 16 against the Packers. Although he didn't really crumble, he just had a bad game. And they're just gonna have to end up like giving Zeke the ball like constantly, which against the Seattle defense probably won't work very well. And yeah, I know since the Amari Cooper trade, like they've been a different offense, but really you look at Amari's numbers, he's been extremely inconsistent. And besides him, it's Cole Beasley who, he's made some incredible plays like the catch at the end of the game last week in New York to win it. But like, mm, he's more consistent than Amari, but I wouldn't say he's one of the better receivers in the league. And then you got Michael Gallup also, who's just kind of there sometimes, but he's kind of good. It's a weird mix. But this Seattle team is going to overwhelm the Cowboys and win this game handily in Dallas, in my opinion, and move on to play the Saints. So now we head to the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, where my Bears host the defending champion Eagles and Nick Foles. Quite honestly, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Like, the Eagles are good, and yes, they have playoff experience winning the whole thing last year, but really, the Eagles' offense can't stack up against this Bears defense. For some reason, majority of the national media really isn't giving the Bears a chance in this game, which doesn't make sense. But it's all because of Trubisky, who they just refuse to admit that he's good after doing nothing but bashing the Bears and him on draft night 17. But he pulls off some crazy stuff. Either way, the Eagles' offense isn't going to be able to match up with guys like Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, Leonard Floyd, Eddie Jackson if fully healthy, Adrian Amos, Prince Amukamara, Kyle Fuller, and Sherrick McManus, since having to come in, has been having a really good season. And then very quietly also on the defensive line, Roy Robertson Harris, watch out for him. He's very, very good. And, they're simply too good to be beaten by a backup, even though, yes, Nick Foles is one of the best, probably the best backup quarterback in the league. But he's going to be taking hits, and with the bruised ribs, I don't see him being able to do anything. Because this Bears defensive line is going to hit him multiple times throughout this game. I expect him to be on the bench by the third quarter, quite honestly. I don't think he'll be able to take it. He'll be back in the locker room at least one time during this game. Watch. And the only real problems is Zach Ertz on this offense. Yes, Alshon Jeffrey is, he's there, but he's the Bears will shut him down. They know how to shut him down. And Zach Ertz, I believe he set the record for most catches in a season by a tight end. And you get guys like Roquan and Danny Trevathan across the middle. They'll be fine against him. And yeah, don't discredit the Bears' offense either. They've been quietly very good. They don't put up the points, per se, but they don't really have to. The defense will give them good field position, and they will score. And they'll put up at least 24 points, which will be plenty to win. Bears take this game all day. Now back over to the AFC for the divisional round. We have the Colts at Kansas City. Now this game, honestly, is probably going to be the best game of the playoffs. Two of the best teams in the league. The Colts have been really, really good down the stretch. They started 1-5. Had they not been that bad off rip, they would probably at least get a first round bye, I'd say. And the Chiefs obviously have home field throughout, being the 1 seed. And the Colts will be coming off a big road win in Houston. The Chiefs are really good, and I mean really, really, really good across the board with guys like D Ford on defense, and you got guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, and obviously who is probably going to be the MVP in Patrick Mahomes. Uh, and you can't really look past the Colts though. After like what I see being a good win in Houston and a very strong close to the regular season for the Colts, they're good, and I really think it's going to be one of the best matchups of the postseason. This game's probably going to be a shootout, and honestly, I'm going upset again, just because the Chiefs are known to go full read and choke in the playoffs, as they do. Colts go into Arrowhead and upset the Chiefs, as it's been shown that it can be done by the Chargers. So now on to Foxborough, where the Ravens visit the Patriots. So this game's also going to be really good because it's the evil empire going up against the new guys on the block. Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, losing Josh Gordon to yet another suspension, which as sad as it is, it's the reality of the situation. It's a death blow. It really is. It's a death blow to the Patriots and any chance they had this postseason. I know this is probably going to come back to bite me, but I have a feeling that this Ravens defense is just going to be too good, and they are going to beat the Patriots in Foxborough and win this game to host the AFC Championship game against the Colts. As unlikely as that sounds, this Ravens defense has been really, really, really good all season, and without their number one receiver, I know it's the Patriots, and they're always there. They're always going to be there. I just don't see it this year, man. Brady has regressed, and without the number one receiver, like I said, I don't see it happening, man. I like Gronk is going to be there, yes, but the Ravens will find a way to shut him down. And historically, in the playoffs over the past decade or so, decade plus, Baltimore has kind of had New England's number in the playoffs, especially with the good defenses. So I'm gonna give this game to Baltimore. Now we go back over to the NFC, where the Seahawks go into New Orleans and play the Saints. So the obvious pick here is the Saints because of guys like Drew Brees and Kamara and Ingram being Thunder and Lightning. The Saints are 5-0 come playoff time in the Superdome with Brees and Peyton. They're the one seed. Mike Thomas is a freak. Their defense has gotten really good in the past couple weeks. The list keeps going and going and going and going. Blah blah blah. The Seahawks, though, you really look at it, they can beat anybody when they get hot, and they get a good running game and a pretty decent defense. You know they they can probably shut down Mike Thomas. They have guys who can stop this running game. They have guys who can slow Breeze down. They can go into New Orleans and beat the Saints, and they will. The Seahawks upset the Saints in New Orleans in the first round for the Saints, second round for the Seahawks. Move on to the NFC title game. So, now we're heading out to Los Angeles, California for the Bears and the Rams in the final game of the divisional round. So, this is going to be a slugfest once again, as it was in week 14, I believe. I think it was week 14. But, it's the best offense versus the best defense. Nagy versus McVay. Trubisky versus Goff. Mack versus Donald. Cohen and Howard versus Gurley. Hicks versus Sue. The storylines just, they go on and on. Like, there's so many matchups that are, like, just so perfect and, end up being, a couple of the most dominant players at their respective positions. You even got guys like, Robinson, Miller, and Gabriel versus, Woods and Cooks. Burton versus Higbee. It just keeps going. So this game's going to be won by whoever's offensive line can stop each other's potent pass rush. And judging off the previous matchup, which I know can and probably will change because it was really cold in Chicago and it's not going to be like that in LA, blah, blah, blah. But the Bears can do it, with Daniels and Whitehair picking up Donald, similar to what they did last time. Kyle Long getting Sue, Massey and Leno picking up Fowler, and whoever else is on the other edge. It really doesn't matter. And that all being said, also don't the chips with the running back on the edge rushers. That being said, Trubisky just has to have a decent game, and I think the Bears will win. And that's why I'm taking them to host the NFC title game against Seattle come championship weekend. Bears take this game. So, in Baltimore, we have the most unlikely AFC championship game of all these teams, I guarantee. And it will be the Colts visiting the Ravens. No, this game is going to be really good. I think once again, this Ravens defense is going to have a big, big like say in this game and how it goes. And Andrew Luck is really going to have a tough time doing anything, due to the lockdown play of Baltimore's defense across the board. Being able to stop anything and everything. And on the other side, I don't see the Colts being able to contain Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards coming out of the backfield. And that all being said, I've got Baltimore winning and heading to the Super Bowl. As unlikely as it might seem, they can do it. They definitely can, and I think they will. Now we are back in Chicago, where the Bears will host the Seahawks for the NFC title. So this game's going to be another really good one. But I think it's pretty simple. This game's in Chicago. The Seahawks have already lost here once this season, and since then, the Bears have done nothing but get better. The defense has gelled, Trubisky solidified, the running game has proved effective, and in a cold game like this, Jordan Howard is going to be the key. He'll play well against the Seahawks defense, and the Bears will win this game and move on to the Super Bowl to play the Ravens. The Super Bowl, the big game this year, featuring the Bears and the Ravens, the two best defenses in the NFL, two of the best running attacks in the NFL, two of the best young quarterbacks duking it out for the Lombardi. The Bears trying to prove to the national media that they are indeed legitimate, the Ravens trying to prove the same. One crazy matchup of unlikely opponents. Khalil Mack dueling Terrell Suggs for superiority over the edge rusher position, and possibly Super Bowl MVP. This is going to be an incredible matchup, and the defensive side of the ball for either of these teams is going to win the game and prove that while offense is effective, and it is an offensive game in the current landscape of the NFL, defense does in fact and will win you championships. That being said, Lamar Jackson, he ain't played a defense like this yet. He'll be halted in his running game and have to try to throw the ball against this Bears defense. And as we all know, he cannot throw the ball particularly well, and he will struggle against this Bears defense in all like facets of the game. Although Trubisky, the same, will struggle. He's a better passer of the ball, obviously, and most will agree on that. He is by far the better passer than Lamar Jackson. But the Ravens secondary, they're not quite as good as the Bears, and that's going to be the key to the game. Mitch Trubisky will make enough plays to get his team to hoist the Lombardi and win Super Bowl 53. The Ravens will be taken out of the sky and eaten alive by the Bears, as they have yet to play a defense like this. Bears take it, hoist the Lombardi, bring it back to Chi-Town, baby. Let's go. Bear down. All right, well, that's that's my playoff predictions. I know some of the games are kind of iffy. They're definitely not your typical locks for these games, but I could definitely see all of these happening, obviously, and I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like I said, defense will win you titles, and the two best defenses will get to the Super Bowl. I think the better one will come out on top. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you guys.